Local and engaging feature stories are more important than ever for minority communities. Frontrunner New Jersey is doing just that. It's all here on the next Latino Motion. Join us.
Choose to get lost in the woods to gain experience in forest management.
Choose to travel through time to understand the past.
Choose to soar to pursue a career in dance.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation, and Stockton University. This edition of Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is brought to you by the HD Studios at the campus of Stockton University.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare. For more information, call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.
Welcome to Latino Motion, a weekly interview show highlighting issues impacting New Jersey's Latino community while advancing understanding of Latino cultural heritage and contributions to our society. And here is your host, Bert Lopez.
Buenos dias and welcome to Latino Motion. With us today to discuss about making local news more engaging is Clyde Hughes. He is the owner of ACJoseph Media and also editor of Frontrunner News, New Jersey. Welcome, Clyde, to Latino Motion.
Thank you for having me. Just a little secret, when I moved here about 5 years ago, I was flipping through channels trying to find out what was on, and Latino Motion was one of the first shows that I saw, and I was so engaged that I watched the whole thing. So now I'm on Latino Motion. So thank you for having me, and thank you for being my original inspiration.
Thank you so much. And Clyde, I know that you've been around the area for a long time, and one of the things that impresses me about you and other reporters like Jorge Restrepo from Society Page is that you guys actually go to events and you actually get engaged and report about it. Whereas a lot of other reporters, sit behind a desk and just collect information. Why do you think that's so important?
I think it's important because you really need to have that face-to-face interaction with the community and with people, because you can, and trust me, I've been a journalist, a mainstream journalist for a long time. And it's just very difficult to get things over the phone the same way that you can get them in person. So I think it's important to have that face-to-face contact. Now, in defense of regular mainstream reporters, they're doing so much more now with so much fewer resources than we have then. But it's still important to make that face-to-face contact and make sure people in the community see you and they're not just dealing with you over the phone, because it adds that sense of confidence in the media, in a confidence in the reporters who are covering you.
And I know the news, how we get the news has changed, right? It's all on your cell phones now, and it's a lot of tidbits, and you don't really get those feature stories where you get to know the people, and that's so important, like areas like Atlantic City, and the folks that don't get the big national news, they're not in the Philadelphia area. Why is that so important?
The internet is great in ways because literally anyone can pick up their phone, have video, and become a reporter. The bad thing about the internet is that anyone can pick up their phone and they can become a reporter. And so we're dominated by breaking news. The car accident, the protest, and what we try to do with Frontrunner New Jersey is to replace that with the feature stories, with the people in the news, because people like to read about people in the news. But also, you can't forget that engagement with the community and letting people know who's in your community, who are people who are doing things in your community, and also the events that are affecting people. Because a lot of times we hear about things afterwards, but we don't know how they happen. We don't know who's involved in them. So we try to make our stories very personal. We want to make sure that you are introduced to the person behind the event and not just the event itself.
And you know, for minority communities that is really overwhelmed with just negativity or negative stories, it's so important to have those positive stories. And I know that you go out of your way to find those positive stories. Tell me what your formula is to really seek out those positive stories.
And this is going to go back to, like I said, I've to show my age, I've been a mainstream newspaper reporter for about 30 years before I decided to go out on my own and freelance. And I've covered a slew of negative stories. And how I got the idea of doing FrontrunnerNewJersey.com and doing feature stories at my old publications, because I'm African American, I was slated to do Black History Month stories. And through the 28 days, I would do these feature stories doing Black History Month. And then it almost like the brakes would hit on March the 1st. He said, okay, we're going to cover these other things now. And I said, now wait a minute, if these stories were newsworthy, February the 1st through February the 28th, and people were reading them and people enjoyed them, well, I think they would enjoy them the other 320 some odd days as well. So Frontrunner New Jersey, and also my extension in covering the Latino community and other communities of color, it's an extension of that, of trying to make sure those voices that we don't normally hear are voices that sometimes we reserve for Black History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month, that we're actually doing them 365 days of the year.
And that's important. Now, you know, what's the difference when you're covering an individual, trying to cover that as part of the story so that people get to know that individual? How is that different from just the facts, ma'am? You know, just covering the headlines. What special skills does it take to really dig down and find out more personal information or more meaningful information about that individual?
When we're talking about the headlines, we're usually covering an event, we're usually covering a meeting, and we're on one specific topic or one specific event. Now, those events are important, but there's usually a whole story of how you got there. And that usually involves the person, an organization that led you to a person. That reminds me, I just edited a story from an intern I have at FrontrunnerNewJersey.com. And I was reading his story, and I'm editing his story, and it was an author story. So he was writing about the author being at this event, and he mentions that the author overcame brain surgery and domestic violence, and the reporter, young reporter, went on to talk about other things. I said, whoa, wait a minute. This person is overcoming brain surgery and also domestic violence. So, you know, we're built, Frontrunner New Jersey, is to cover those angles, to make sure that we bring out how special this person is. Because immediately my mind was, wow, this must be a really special person to overcome such great hardships, to come and now write a book. So my website is designed to kind of flesh out those stories. So because you never know who will be inspired by that, who will be encouraged by her story. And those things are important, and that's what we're trying to bring out.
And not only that, I think that also brings a positive spin, right, to the community, the sense of self-worth, and certainly that it's not just the headline news that dominates the conversation in the community, but there's all these other good things happening in that community as well.
Yes. Now, headline news is headline news. It's headline news because people like to read those types of things. But I will also argue, as a veteran reporter, that people like to read those positive stories as well, and they like to be inspired by them.
Well, we want to continue this discussion. We've got a lot more to talk. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion.
Latino Motion with Bert Lopez is presented by Latino Motion Public Affairs Media, a New Jersey nonprofit corporation. Join us online at www.latinomotion.tv. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage your comments and contributions for show topics.
Welcome back to Latino Motion. We continue our discussion with Clyde Hughes. He is the owner of ACJoseph Media, an editor of FrontRunnerNewJersey.com. Clyde, we were talking about how the newspaper world has changed, and it's all really digital right now, and how your focus is on positive stories, the feature stories. But another part I know that you mentioned to me offline is that you also focus on things that are unique.
Yes.
In areas that maybe someone else isn't covering. And I know that within the Latino community, there's very few, particularly down in South Jersey, media that cover what's happening in the Latino community. And I know that you are working on a venture called La Prensa. Tell me more about that.
Yes, our Front Runner La Prensa column has been going on for about 3 years now. When I started Front Runner New Jersey, it was initially about the African American community. But when I started to write stories, I noticed all of these stories in the Latino community that I thought was very interesting. Again, back from my mainstream newspaper days when I covered urban affairs. And I said, wow, these are stories I really need to start covering. So I started to look around to see who was doing those stories and who was covering those stories. And I saw there was very few opportunities out there to cover those stories. And so I thought it was a natural progression to start the column and start covering the Latino community in earnest through our Front Runner La Prensa column. Matter of fact, I have a special announcement of whenever you want me to tell it. But we take special pride in covering the Latino community and a lot of the stories that aren't necessarily covered in the mainstream media because we feel if you're going to have a full view of a community, of a neighborhood, of a region, you need to cover all the people in those regions, and that's why we think it's important.
It certainly is, and it's also in English, right? And just like Latino Motion is in English, I guess one of the misconceptions that people have is that Latinos only get their news in Spanish, right? And there's a second generation. I mean, my kids only listen to, English media, et cetera. So if you're only catering to the Spanish language, obviously you're picking up that very important demographic. But there's this other part, English-speaking Latinos who still Latinos just the same, but just happen to choose English as the main source of picking up the news.
Yeah, and we would like to do more translation stories, but I found that hasn't been a barrier for us covering the Latino community. So I'm happy with a lot of the things that we've done, a lot of the stories that we've done. One of the things that we're particularly proud of. We started our it started out as 30 under 35 top young Latinos of South Jersey. It was a way for us to introduce new young leadership to the community because, again, going back to my experience as a mainstream reporter, we have, and this goes on with the media today, we have a terrible habit of going back to the same people over and over again about quotes and a story about what's happening in the community. And there are a lot of people who are doing great things in these communities. So we thought this would be a great way to introduce people. And now this September, we're starting our third edition, our third class of the 30 under 30. And we've increased the age to 30 under 40 because we thought the 35-year age was really arbitrary. And we felt we wanted to include more people. So this will be our first 30 under 40 top young Latino leaders of South Jersey that we will introduce in September. And we're looking forward to honoring that next class.
Yeah, and I know that you mentioned an announcement because you want to continue that great work. And tell me more about that announcement.
Yes, we are currently looking for a writer to produce at least one story a week for us from for our La Prensa column. Yes, we do pay. I am not going to ask anyone to write for free because I'm a freelance journalist myself. But I think it's important that for the community to see that we are covering the Latino community on a regular basis. And you can always expect new stories, engaging stories from our column. So if you know of someone, or maybe someone in the audience knows someone who's a writer, who aspiring to be a journalist, please contact me, and we're ready to put you to work right now in covering the Latino community.
So I know that you visit all the cultural events, and culture is so important, right? I seen you at the Latino Festival. I saw you at the Latino Mixer. Tell me why that's so important. You yourself, who's not Latino, and yet fully engaged within the Latino community.
And I mentioned this before. I think it's important because people need to be able to place a face with the person who's covering that community. And there's always allies that's very important for you to be able to engage with. And I'm hoping that resonates within the community, the effort that we put forward to participate and cover these events. And I think people are appreciative of those efforts as well. And it helps in the news coverage. 2 or 3 years ago, I would not have had people contact me about different stories. I would go on Facebook and I would look for different stories to cover. That's not happening now. Now people are coming to us. They're emailing me. They're texting me their story ideas and things that we should cover. That's a big change from 3 years ago, and I couldn't be more thrilled than that.
And I know, obviously, that you continue to expand in terms of your readership and your digital format. Is that the format that you plan to continue? Is print out? I mean, I don't see anyone going to print. I think everyone's sticking with digital.
Yeah. I don't think print is completely dead, but it's on lifelines. It is definitely on its lifelines. I think people are going to digital first. I think that presents opportunities and also presents some challenges as well, because the advertising dollars has not yet flowed evenly from print to digital. Advertisers tend to still spend more with print than digital. So you're always trying to adjust and figure out ways how to make that work. But people are paying more to digital. 70% of people who find Front Runner New Jersey find it on their phones. Right. And that was an adjustment for me. Now, because they find it on their phones, that means they're looking for quicker stories, a shorter story. So we have to take advantage of that as well because of the changing format.
I want to continue this discussion. I want to talk about some of the impacts that some of your feature stories has had. We'll be right back with more Latino Motion. Welcome back to Latino Motion. We're once again with Clyde Hughes. He is the owner of ACJoseph Media and also editor of FrontRunnerNewsNewJersey.com. And we were just talking about, some of the great work you're doing with La Prensa, covering a lot of the stories within the Latino community, and just the philosophy that you have in terms of covering positive stories and having the feature stories that you really get to know those individuals. I want to just get an idea from you about some of the stories that you think have been impactful, some of the stories that perhaps you have learned something from.
One of the things that I've learned is that people love local stories, and the more local that you can get, the more impactful. We were just discussing the story about Isaiah Pacheco with the Kansas City Chiefs. I remember when I first came here, he was the quarterback of Vineland High School, and he's now playing in the Super Bowl. He was there with his parents. Violent is probably
not only that, he had a standout game. I mean, it was
yeah,
amazing to see. I was asking, who's this Pacheco? So yes.
So he has this great game. He rushes for the 6th most rushing yards of a rookie ever in the Super Bowl. So we did a story on that because I noticed that people really didn't play up on that angle that Isaiah played so well that he actually made the Super Bowl record books. And I think everyone in Vineland and Kansas City read that story because it went viral. We had like more than 10,000 hits over the first 2 or 3 days of the Isaiah Pacheco story. And he, if you don't know his story, in Vineland, and his family is real close. He had to overcome a personal tragedy his senior year, where he managed to stay on the football team, go to Rutgers, and now he's this big Super Bowl hero. And I know the local area couldn't be more proud of him, even though he beat the Eagles. The local area couldn't be more proud of him. Those are the types of stories that we are built for and what we enjoy doing. There's a parade in his honor in April, and we're going to be there, and we're going to be able to hopefully talk to him and his parents, and again continue that theme of personally what it means for him. Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I'm less interested in that, but more interested in what it means for the community, what it means for this family, and also who it is inspiring. The next Isaiah Pacheco out of Vineland, or maybe Millville, or maybe Atlantic City, because now they have someone in front of them who is living their dream and has achieved their dream. And so those are the stories that we try to explore and live up to, because you never know who's going to be inspired and who is going to be encouraged by those stories.
So talking about some learning opportunities, and obviously I know that you covered the Three Kings Day event that was held in Atlantic City, and it's held throughout. It's a holiday that's usually January 6th. It's after Christmas, celebrated throughout Latin America. I remember as a kid, used to put grass in a shoebox under my bed and wake up and you would find a gift. The grass was growing and you find the gift. And you had an opportunity to witness that and learn a little more about it.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Three Kings celebration beforehand until I saw it online and Facebook. I said, this is interesting. Let me look into more about what's going on with the Three Kings celebration. I saw that there was a local story that was done at Atlantic City. So I did that for FrontrunnerNewJersey.com, and then I got contacted about a story that was happening in Camden, a couple of other places, and I said, wow, this is more widespread than I thought. So it's something that we were able to cover, but I feel like I really didn't do it justice. So it's a learning experience for me, and next year we're really going to be on the Three Kings celebration and to make sure that we're covering it in as many communities as possible.
Yeah, and we'll welcome you back to Atlantic City for the Three Kings Day celebration this year. And it's always a pleasure because at that event, by the way, I know the Hispanic Association hosted about 600 kids that walked away with a present.
I saw that. That was fantastic. Yeah, and you also had state police involved as well.
Yeah, well, the state police came there. They have it's actually a Latino society of state troopers that come out every year and help support that great event. I know that you also like transformational stories, and you have one that you're working on.
Yes, it'll be on FrontrunnerNewJersey.com, and I think it's an amazing story about this individual. I won't name him because the story is not out yet, but he grew up in hard times. He actually spent about a decade in prison, but he learned from his mistakes and vowed to his mother on the phone, because he couldn't see her the last time he got into trouble, that he was going to be a changed person. He was going to do it for her and the community. And now today, it's been 3 years since he's been out of prison, that he started his own business. He's talking to kids and throughout 5 high schools, through Life Worth Living in Bridgeton. Wow. And he's also writing letters for other prisoners looking to get out and change their lives as well. He could have walked away and said, I did what I had to do. You can go ahead and do what you have to do. He decided not to walk away. He said, I'm going to help other people as well. Those are stories that are worth telling. When I started to look through, again, newspapers, I found all the bad stories about him, but none of the good stories. I said, this is going to change when we put out our story. And those are the types of stories that we look for. And we kind of make our brand on those positive transformation stories.
Tell us about how people could log in and get FrontRunner News. FrontrunnerNewJersey.com. You type it all out, FrontRunner New Jersey, not FrontRunner NJ. You'll never get it. Type out FrontRunnerNewJersey.com, and it will pull up our website. And you will see that our main stories, our column stories of FrontRunner La Prensa, FrontRunner Diverse Voices, and also at the bottom, our latest stories that we do. If you have a story idea, you can contact me. The easiest way to contact me is email, chughes@ACJosephMedia.com or Clyde.Hughes@yahoo.com. Either way, you'll be able to get it. And we'll put that up on the screen. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. It's been a pleasure, Clyde, having you on Latino Motion. Continue the great work. And thank you at home for once again tuning in to Latino Motion.
Choose to get your feet wet, to learn more about protecting our environment.
Choose to read minds, to understand the human brain.
Choose to get your hands dirty, to create a masterpiece.
Stockton University offers 50 high-quality academic programs, small class sizes, and affordable tuition. Choose to match your interests and talents at one of New Jersey's nationally ranked universities.
Funding for Latino Motion is provided by Atlanticare. For more information, call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org. Atlantic City Electric, energy for a changing world. And South Jersey Gas.